Coming up, South Korea shoots rounds of artillery at unmanned North Korean drones that trespass into South Korean airspace. South Korea retaliates by sending some of its own unmanned aircraft into North Korean territory. China opens its borders, removing quarantine measures for overseas travelers. Incoming passengers will now just need a PCR test with negative results 48 hours before boarding a flight to enter the country. Plus, at least 55 dead in the U.S. in the last week alone from harshly cold weather and massive snowstorms. The Northeast is hit hardest as it endures its worst blizzard in 45 years. Good morning. Welcome to New Day at Arirang. We begin this morning as multiple drones from North Korea crossed over to the south on Monday. This prompted the country's military to try and shoot them down and deploy fighters to intercept. Our Kim Da-mi starts us off.
The South Korean military on Monday fired around 100 shots toward unauthorized drones from North Korea that crossed the inter-Korean border. One came down as far as the northern part of the capital Seoul, and 4 flew around Gangado Island for hours. The South military, however, failed to shoot down the drones that are reportedly smaller than 2 meters. They all returned to the north. It was the first time in 5 years that North Korea had used the drones to cross the border.
The South Korean military deployed manned and unmanned reconnaissance equipment to areas close to and north of the military demarcation line, took corresponding measures against the drones invading our airspace, and conducted operational activities such as photographing the enemy's key military facilities.
South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff detected multiple unidentified objects, presumed to be unmanned aerial vehicles in border areas of Gyeonggi-do province, starting at 10:25 a.m. The vehicles flew across the military demarcation line separating the two Koreas and intruded into areas of Gimpo, Gangado Island, and Paju. Some even came down within visual range of nearby towns. Among the South Korean jets that scrambled to intercept them was a Ka-1 attack aircraft, which crashed after takeoff from an airbase in Wonju on South Korea's east coast. The pilots were reportedly okay. The North Korean intrusion also led to temporary suspensions of civilian flights, including at Incheon and Gimpo airports. Back in June 2017, drones from the north crossed the MDL and filmed the areas of Seongju County, where the U.S. missile defense system THAAD is located. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said that the North should devise more confident and stronger fighting strategies. His remarks came during the key Workers' Party meeting of North Korea held earlier this week discussing next year's policy direction. Pyongyang state media reported that at the 6th enlarged plenary meeting of the party's 8th Central Committee, Kim said the North has made progress despite enduring hardships. He also said the power of the regime has remarkably increased in all areas, including politics, military, the economy, and culture. And he laid out next year's goals for major industrial sectors, including the metal and chemical industries. At the meeting, 5 key items on the agenda were unanimously approved, including the major state policies for this year and next year's budget. South Korea and Japan held working-level talks on ways to compensate wartime forced labor victims. Seo Min-jung, the Director General for Asia and Pacific Affairs, met with her Japanese counterpart Takehiro Funakoshi in Tokyo. The two sides reportedly focused on Japanese companies giving a formal apology and contributing to the fund that will be used for compensation. The two diplomats previously met last month in Japan. South Korea is moving to a possible end to mandatory mask wearing. Part of the conditions needed to implement such changes, improved vaccination rate among people 60 and older. Our Lee Eun-jin explains further.
South Korea reported 25,545 new COVID-19 cases on Monday, with the number remaining below 70,000 for the 4th straight day. But on Saturday, the number of new COVID-19 related deaths hit a 3-month high of 70. This comes as health authorities have laid out criteria for phasing out the indoor mask mandate. The 4 criteria are a stable number of new infections, a downtrend in critically ill cases and deaths, robust medical capabilities, and a high vaccination rate among high-risk groups. What stands key to the government setting a date for the end of the indoor mask mandate is the high-risk group of elderly over the age of 70 getting their updated booster shots, as 89% of the critically ill and 96% of the reported deaths are from those over the age of 60.
The low inoculation rate has great effect on removing the indoor mask mandate. As much as it is a hindrance, I want to reiterate that it is crucial to raise the vaccination rate right now.
The winter booster vaccination campaign has been extended another 2 weeks until the end of this month to get more people in high-risk groups vaccinated. Experts say it is important that the booster shots are promoted better so that more people have information about them.
People who didn't experience side effects from the vaccine previously are most likely not going to show side effects, and the overall chances of any side effects will be reduced to 1/10. So according to KDCA statistics, those that have already been vaccinated a few times don't need to worry much.
As the government urges people to get updated variant-specific booster vaccines, an additional Moderna vaccine has received emergency approval from the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety. That means starting Monday, 4 types of booster shots will be available. Teenagers between the ages of 12 and 17 are only eligible to receive the 2 types of Pfizer vaccines, but both the Moderna booster shots are available to those over the age of 18. 이은진, Arirang News.
Now over in China. China is removing quarantine measures for overseas arrivals starting next month. The National Health Commission announced that from January 8th, it will scrap the zero-tolerance measures. Currently, overseas arrivals are quarantined for 8 days, 5 days in a government-supervised facility, and 3 more days of isolation at home. But under the change, the quarantine is gone completely, and travelers will only need a PCR test taken with a negative result 48 hours pre-flight to enter the country. China is also getting rid of the need for a PCR test after arrival, so once people pass through quarantine procedures at the airport, they will be able to step straight out of the airport and hit the streets of China. Large retailers are collaborating with traditional marketplaces to promote themselves and help revitalization. Some parts are turned into coffee shops, others to various experience zones. Our Shin-Young takes us there.
With the growth of large-scale retailers, traditional markets in South Korea have been losing ground. According to the Small Enterprise and Market Service, between 2006 and 2020, more than 200 traditional markets closed down. However, Gyeongdong Market, which is famous for herbal ingredients used in traditional medicine, has seen a recent upsurge in visitors. This comes after Starbucks Korea opened a new branch in the market.
This place was originally a theater. It was built in the 1960s but has been closed for almost 30 years. And now it's a cafe where people of all ages can enjoy the retro atmosphere.
For every item sold at this store, 300 Korean won or around 23 US cents will be used to support the market and local community.
With a retro atmosphere and a special interior design, we are expecting both cafe and market to become popular spots, especially for Generation MZ.
I love this place as it has a different mood from other cafes. If there are more places like this at traditional markets, I will visit often with my friends.
Nearby, LG Electronics is providing an experience zone with the concept of Gold Star, which was the previous name of the LG brand. Young people can have new experiences through activities like upcycling crafts, while the older generations can enjoy the nostalgia. These projects have been a win-win for both companies and Gyeongdong Market.
We've been trying to attract young people to revitalize the market, as most of the merchants and customers are older. The effect has not really been seen yet, but shopkeepers have welcomed the refurbishment of the space, as visitors can stop by some of the stores on the way to the cafe.
Meanwhile, amid the growth of non-face-to-face transactions during the COVID-19 pandemic, an official from the Ministry of SMEs and Startups says it plans next year to support the markets with their digital transformation. Shin-Young, Arirang News.
The government recently decided to require companies to offer employees more time off for childcare. While the goal is to help people start families, many point out it may not be feasible in some businesses. Our Chung Eun-ju has the details.
South Korea's birth rate last year was at an all-time low of 0.81, meaning women on average are giving birth to fewer than one child in their lifetime. The outlook for this year is even bleaker. The birth rate fell below 1 for the first time in 2018 and has continued to decrease ever since. The government's countermeasure against this fall is to extend the parental leave period, currently set at 1 year, to 1 year and 6 months. Under the new guidelines, parents may also use their parental leave until their child turns 9 or 10 years old from the current 8 years old.
We're making efforts to prevent career interruptions, such as raising the child age limit for parents wishing to use the working hour reduction system.
Though this is good news for families with children, the problem is that only a limited group of people can benefit from it. Although more people have been steadily applying for parental leave every year, 6 to 7 out of 10 people who took parental leave last year were employees of large companies. People working for small companies have difficulty using it.
My husband nor I use parental leave. The company actually hints that we shouldn't use it. The company also can't really afford substitute workers, so I couldn't say I wanted to use parental leave.
This is why many people point out the need to strengthen management and supervision so employees are able to use parental leave.
It's difficult to use parental leave, even for 1 year, unless you're a public official or work for a large company. Fines should be imposed, investigations should be carried out, not just extending the period.
The government will prepare a manual that contains procedures for reporting and seeking guidance should a company prevent or discourage their employees from taking parental leave. Chung Eun-ju, Arirang News.
As we just saw, South Korea's airspace was trespassed for hours by North Korean drones. Well, now, what does this mean, and why does Pyongyang continue to provoke South Korea through different actions? For more, we have Kim Yang-gyu, principal researcher at East Asia Institute, with us this morning. Good morning, Ms. Kim.
Good morning.
Now, drones flying into South Korean territory is a relatively new method of provocation by the North. The last one was spotted in 2017. What's behind this elevation in the regime's level of recent series of provocations? What will Pyongyang be able to gain from this?
I think it seems pretty obvious that North Korea is seeking to find a new way of elevating tensions on the Korean Peninsula after the release of Biden administration's nuclear posture review that talked about the end of the regime, North Korean regime, if North Korea uses nuclear weapons against the United States or its allies. North Korea has been very strong about this warning and said that Washington will pay the equal price for threatening North Korea and will conduct provocations in direct proportion to U.S. efforts to enhance extended deterrence in the region. The problem is firing missiles is pretty expensive. Like some expert already estimated it costs about $2 to $10 million for each missile provocation, and we know that North Korea already launched more than 75 missiles this year. So I think Pyongyang has to be creative. They need to find a cheaper way to increase tension in the region. And I think using drones is a perfect and smart move for this, because drones are small, cheaper, relatively slow-moving, and not easily detected by radar, and carry far less firepower, which means that it's a bit less threatening. Yet it's capable of conducting surveillance missions, relaying crucial information about enemy locations and military moves, also performing combat and combat support, as we saw in the war during this year, the Ukraine, and about the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in 2020. So drones are a perfect tool for escalation tactics, given the cost and capability to perform versatile missions.
Right, and I do want to ask for an elaboration in terms of the fact that missiles might not be a direct confrontation. Now, I wouldn't say it's not direct, but the fact that drones coming into the airspace of South Korea Could it be looked at as something that's going further, despite being cheaper?
Indeed, but the drones itself cannot really damage much, except for the surveillance purpose. Of course, if they carry more arsenals, but the North Korean current technology of using drones, they have still a very beginning level of using drones. If they can launch the, like this is talking about the drone swarming, this is going to be very, very lethal, and it's very dangerous. But North Korea is far from actually conducting that level of provocation using drones. So I think, as I just mentioned, drones can perform multiple missions, multiple functions, so they can choose the level of escalation as much as they do. So that's why I think they're trying to turn to drones. But this doesn't mean that North Korea will only stay in this level of using drones for escalating tensions, because North Korea has been following the playbook of its 2017, and we know that we have witnesses that North Korea conducted short-range missile tests, intermediate-range missile tests, intercontinental missile tests, and rocket engine tests. Everything has done in 2017 as well. The only thing they haven't done, even the drone provocation, the only thing they haven't done is nuclear tests. So maybe this is a build-up to conduct another nuclear test in the near future.
Now, I wanted to talk about the retaliations or the sanctions. Realistically speaking, how much pressure is the North feeling from these independent sanctions by Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo? Are these sanctions working, or are they just really symbol of disapproval?
I have to say that sanctions will not have that much impact. I think it's mainly for the sending political signals of the commitments of the three countries, especially Washington, Tokyo, and Seoul, because literally the inter-Korean economic exchanges has been banned for years, and like newly included, sanctions sanction organization, the Japan sanction list, like Lazarus Group, has been under U.S. sanctions for some time. So I don't think there are much things that we can do more to damage North Korea. And besides, North Korea already survived the most severe level of sanctions imposed by themselves during the pandemic. And North Korea demonstrated its resilience. They can survive even after this strict level of sanctions. So I think we cannot do much about to change behavior in North Korea using economic sanctions. And we already heard that North Korea has been very successful in using cyber operations to fund their missile programs, and some experts say that 1/3 of their missile program is funded by the cyber crimes operated by the organizations like Lazarus Group. So until we find a way to stop the cyber operations, I don't think that sanctions would do much.
Right. Now, we have a short amount of time, but before you go, the White House recently confirmed Pyongyang has been selling weapons to Wagner Group, the Russian paramilitary company. What kind of retaliation are we expecting from Washington in terms of justified retaliation because of this?
As I just mentioned, I think we are running out of tools. We don't have much card to play with, except for expanding the sanctions list. But it will not damage North Korea that much. Washington might do to actually frustrate Russian aggression in Ukraine, as we already heard that the U.S. announced a new aid package to Ukraine last Tuesday that included the Patriot air and missile defense system, which will make Russia more difficult to maintain the battlefield endurance in Ukraine, which will, indirectly punish North Korea, because now Russia and China is opening back doors for North Korea to have more economic support from these countries. So I think it could indirectly punish North Korea by punishing Russia.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your insight today. I know we only had a few minutes, but hope you have a great day, Mr. Kim.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For a look at news from around the world, we now turn to our Lee Seung-jae standing by at our news center Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Now let's start off in the United States, where the death toll from the devastating winter storm continues to rise.
That's right, Doyen. At least 55 people have died in the United States due to weather-related incidents since late last week, with western New York taking the brunt of Mother Nature's wrath. Now, residents and emergency crew continue to dig out heavy snow in the region, with death toll in that region alone rising to at least 25. Now, the greater Buffalo region on the edge of Lake Erie near the Canadian border has been one of the hardest hit places by the blizzard, considered the area's worst in 45 years. Unfortunately, up to 30 centimeters of snow is still forecast to fall through Tuesday in some areas south of Buffalo and north of Syracuse. The unusual Arctic freeze and winter storm front had extended over most of the United States for days, stretching as far south as the Mexican border. Now over to Nepal this time. A former Maoist guerrilla who led a decade-long insurgency against Nepal's Hindu monarchy was sworn in on Monday as prime minister for the third time. Pushpa Kamal Dahal, who goes by Prachanda, meaning terrible or fierce, will lead the new government for the first half of the 5-year term with the support of the opposition Communist Unified Marxist-Leninist Party alongside other smaller groups. Nepal will be led by a coalition party. Prachanda will step down in 2025, making way for the UML to take over. Since 2008, when the 239-year-old monarchy was abolished, Nepal has seen 10 government changes. Now moving over to Indonesia this time, where a boat carrying 57 Rohingya refugees reached the coast of Indonesia's western Aceh province on Sunday. However, another boat carrying 180 Rohingya refugees is feared to have sunk with all on board. Local reports say the 57 surviving refugees, all male, had spent nearly a month drifting at sea after their boat's engine failed. Both boats left from Bangladesh, where nearly 1 million Rohingya from Myanmar are living in crowded facilities in the Muslim-majority nation. And finally, over to the Czech Republic this time, where the capital Prague hosted its annual Boxing Day swim. Hundreds of winter swimmers braved the chilly waters of the city's Vltava River on Monday. Participants swam races of 100, 300, and 750 meters in the river, where the water temperature was around 5 degrees Celsius. Now, the Boxing Day winter swim is held in honor of Albert Nicodem, a Prague goldsmith who popularized winter swimming in the 1920s. Now, participants came from the Czech Republic, Austria, Germany, Poland, Slovakia, the UK, and the United States.
Good morning. Cold wave alerts remain in place across much of country. I mean, if December has been this harsh, I can't imagine how cold it will be in January. And with the ongoing cold snap, many have come down with the cold, so take well care of yourself. Cheolwon in Gangwon-do province is starting out the day below minus 15 degrees Celsius. Making matters worse, the capital, Chungcheongdo and Jeollabuk-do provinces will have high levels of ultra-fine dust all day today, so please wear a face mask that can block ultra-fine dust. Afternoon highs will be similar or slightly higher than yesterday's. Seoul topping out at 2 degrees Celsius. Gwangju will see a high of 5 degrees with mostly sunny skies in the forecast in most parts. But East Coast regions are under dry weather alerts. Snow is in the forecast in central regions from dawn tomorrow to early in the morning, bringing chillier air to the country. While West Coast regions will see snow tomorrow night into Thursday, but weather will warm up just a bit just in time for New Year's Eve. With that in mind, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
And that wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for our Wednesday's edition at the same time. Please stay with Arirang News, though, for more updates throughout the day. Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are, and take care.
백서